The night was supposed to be unforgettable. The chandeliers sparkled, violins played softly, and the richest people in town filled the grand ballroom of the Almeida family mansion. Waiters carried trays of champagne, while laughter and gossip floated through the air. But hidden behind the polished silver and crystal glasses was a storm waiting to break. At the corner of the room stood Elena, a housemaid in her 30s. Her uniform was spotless, her hair tied neatly, but her eyes betrayed the exhaustion of a woman who had worked all day just to blend into the background. For years, Elena had perfected the art of being invisible. In this house, the less she was seen, the safer she felt. But tonight, invisibility was impossible. Elena, the sharp voice of Camila Almeida, the lady of the house, sliced through the music. Conversation stopped, and I turned toward the servant. Camila, glamorous in a glittering gown worth more than Elena's yearly salary, stood with a fake smile that couldn't hide her cruelty. "Tell everyone," Camila said loudly, her tone dripping with mockery. "Tell them how you ruined my evening." Elena froze. I don't understand, Senora." Camila held up her expensive clutch, the silk stained with red wine. "This? 15,000 reis destroyed by your clumsy hands." Gasps filled the air. Elena's heart pounded. She hadn't touched the bag. She knew Camila had spilled the wine herself, but proving it was impossible. "On your knees," Camila commanded coldly. "Clean it. Now, let them see how little you're worth." The silence was suffocating. Elena felt her knees weaken as shame burned through her chest. Around her, powerful men and elegant women watched with cold indifference. Not one stepped forward. Not one defended her. As Elena knelt, she caught sight of Rafael Almeida, the heir of the family empire. He stood stiff, his jaw clenched, his fist balled. Their eyes locked for a moment, and in that second, Elena hoped he might say something, anything. But then Camila's hand slipped through his arm, pulling him toward another group of investors. Rafael looked away. "See?" Camila hissed quietly in Elena's ear. "Even my own husband doesn't care about you. You're nothing. And after tonight, you'll regret ever stepping into this house." Elena lowered her head, the humiliation cutting deeper than any wound. She didn't know yet, but before the night ended, her name would be on every screen, her courage would be tested in a way she could never imagine, and the world would finally see the truth. The humiliation in the ballroom was only the beginning. Hours later, the celebration spilled into the Almeida family's luxurious garden, where the centerpiece was a glittering pool surrounded by marble statues and fairy lights. Laughter echoed, champagne bottles popped, and a live band played upbeat songs while guests bragged about their wealth. But Elena wasn't part of the laughter. She was in the kitchen, silently scrubbing crystal glasses worth more than her monthly wage. Her hands still trembled from earlier. Every clink of glass reminded her that one mistake could cost her job, or worse. "Elena." The voice made her spin around. Standing in the doorway was Rafael Almeida. His tie was loose, his hair slightly messy, as if the perfect air had finally cracked. For a moment, the kitchen felt too small, the air too heavy. I should finish these," Elena whispered, trying to avoid his gaze. Rafael stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I'm sorry. I should have done something back there." Her hands stilled in the soapy water. It was the first time he had spoken to her directly. The weight of his words hit her like a punch. "You don't need to apologize, senor," Elena said softly. "I know my place." Rafael shook his head. "No, you don't deserve this. You don't deserve her cruelty." His voice broke slightly, his jaw tight with anger. "I've watched too long in silence, and every time I hated myself for it." Elena blinked back tears. "Why are you telling me this now?" His answer came like confession. "Because I can't keep pretending anymore." The room went quiet except for the faint music drifting in from the garden. Elena's heart raced. She wanted to step back, to remind him of the impossible distance between them, but his words had already cut through years of silence. Before either of them could say more, the kitchen door burst open. Mateus, Raphael's 8-year-old son, stumbled in, clutching a tablet. His wide eyes darted between his father, and Elena. "Popeye," he said breathlessly. "Mommy's looking for you. She's angry." Raphael's mask of control slipped back on. He forced a smile for his son. "Go back outside, Filio. I'll be there in a minute." Mateus hesitated, then turned to Elena. "Don't be sad," he whispered. "You're nicer than anyone here." With that, he ran out, leaving an awkward silence behind. Raphael sighed. "I'll fix this," he murmured, almost to himself. Somehow, he left before Elena could reply, his words lingering like smoke in the air. Elena tried to steady her breath, but unease clawed at her chest. She remembered the venom in Camilla's whisper earlier. There had been something dangerous in her tone, something that went beyond cruelty. And soon, the danger would show itself. Because while the adults mingled carelessly by the pool, Mateus was at the edge of the water, chasing after a toy ball. His shoes slipped on the wet marble, and in a blink, the boy vanished into the pool's deepest end. For a few seconds, no one noticed. Then a child's scream tore through the music. "Mateus is drowning." The party froze. Dozens of powerful people turned to the water, paralyzed. Raphael's glass slipped from his hand as panic filled his face. He ran, but when he reached the edge, something in him broke. Fear rooted him to the spot. The heir of the Almeida Empire, the man with everything, stood powerless. And it was in that moment that Elena made her choice. The sound of children screaming shattered the music. "Mateus is drowning!" echoed across the garden, but for a heartbeat, no one moved. Guests froze with champagne flutes in hand, their polished shoes glued to the marble floor. The water churned violently, bubbles rising, then silence. Mateus had sunk. Raphael reached the edge first. His face twisted in terror as he saw his son disappearing beneath the water. "Somebody help him," he cried. His hands trembled, his body leaned forward, but fear anchored his feet. The cameras that had been filming the glamorous event now turned toward the tragedy, capturing every second. Camilla appeared, shrieking, mascara streaking down her face. "My baby! Save my baby!" But like the others, she didn't dare jump in. Guests gasped, some shouted, others pulled out their phones. Not one soul moved closer to the water. And then, the sound of rushing footsteps. Elena. She had been carrying empty glasses back from the terrace when the screams pierced her heart. Without hesitation, she dropped the tray, the shattering crystal drowned out by her pounding heartbeat. The crowd parted as she tore through in her simple maid's uniform, her hair flying loose. Without a second thought, she leapt. The water swallowed her whole, icy and heavy, but adrenaline surged through her veins. She forced herself deeper, her eyes burning, her lungs screaming for air. Then she saw him, Mateus, tiny arms flailing weakly, bubbles escaping from his mouth as he sank. "Hold on," Elena thought, kicking hard. She wrapped her arms around the boy's waist and pulled with all her strength. He was limp, but his small hand clutched her sleeve desperately. Her muscles burned as she fought upward every second of battle. Finally, they broke the surface. Elena gasped for air, coughing violently, but she held Mateus high above the water. "I've got you," she cried hoarsely. Raphael snapped out of his paralysis and dropped to his knees at the edge. "Pass him to me." His hands stretched out desperately. Elena pushed Mateus forward, and Raphael grabbed his son, pulling him onto the marble, tears streaming down his face. The boy coughed, vomited water, then let out a ragged cry. "Alive!" The crowd erupted. Some clapped in relief, others sobbed, and many kept filming. But while everyone cheered the boy's rescue, no one noticed Elena slipping beneath the surface again. Her strength was gone. The fight had taken everything out of her. Her head struck the side of the pool as she tried to climb, a flash of pain, then darkness. Blood mixed with the shimmering water. "Elena!" Raphael screamed, realizing too late. He thrust Mateus into someone's arms and dove headfirst into the pool. The cameras, still rolling, caught every moment. The heir of the Almeida fortune plunging after a maid. Underwater, Raphael found her drifting downward, unconscious. Her hair floated like black silk, her pale face eerily calm. He wrapped his arms around her, kicking furiously until they broke the surface. "She's not breathing," Raphael shouted as he carried her to the marble floor. He laid her down, water pouring from her mouth, her skin pale as porcelain. Desperation fueled him as he pressed his lips to hers, forcing air into her lungs. "Come on, Elena. Don't you dare leave me," he begged between breaths, his hands shaking as he tried to restart her heartbeat. The party had fallen silent. All eyes watched the scene, cameras zooming in. A maid, humiliated hours earlier, was now the center of the nation's attention, her fate hanging by a thread. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Elena coughed violently, choking up water. Her chest heaved, her eyes fluttered open. The first thing she saw was Raphael's face hovering over hers, wet with tears. "You saved my son," he whispered. "You saved my world." The crowd erupted again, but this time with cheers. Reporters shoved forward, microphones catching every sob, every word. In seconds, Elena had gone from invisible servant to national heroine. But in the shadows, Camilla's expression wasn't relief, it was fury. Her eyes burned with hatred. This wasn't the end. For her, it was the beginning of war. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and fear. Hours had passed since the rescue, and Elena lay unconscious in a private room, tubes running from her arms, a bandage wrapped around her head. Machines beeped steadily, each sound a reminder that her life hung in balance. Raphael hadn't left her side. He sat slouched in a chair, his hands clasped around hers, his once perfect suit wrinkled and damp. His son was safe, but his savior, their savior, was fighting for her life. When the doctor finally entered, Raphael shot to his feet. "Tell me she's going to make it." Dr. Silva studied the chart. The head trauma caused swelling, but it's receding. If her condition continues to improve, she'll wake within the next 24 hours. Relief crashed over Raphael, his knees nearly buckling. Thank God. But outside the room, a storm was brewing. Camilla had spent the night spiraling. Once the queen of every social gathering, she now found herself despised. News outlets replayed the footage endlessly, a glamorous mother screaming helplessly while the maid saved her son. Social media roasted her. Headlines screamed, "The cowardly elite versus the brave maid." Camilla stormed into the hospital, her high heels clicking like gunfire. When she entered Elena's room, her eyes narrowed at the sight of Raphael gently holding the maid's hand. "How touching," she sneered. "The hero and her prince. Do you plan to replace me publicly now?" Raphael rose slowly, his face unreadable. "Camilla, she saved our son's life. You should be thanking her." "Thanking?" Camilla's laugh was sharp, bitter. "This woman humiliated me in front of the entire country. You think I'll just watch while she takes everything from me?" "She didn't take anything," Raphael snapped, his voice rising. "You gave it away, with your cruelty, your lies, your cowardice." Camilla's face flushed crimson. For years, Raphael had never dared to raise his voice to her. Now, in front of the unconscious maid, he was defending her. "You'll regret this," she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. "Both of you will." Before Raphael could reply, a small voice cut through the tension. "Stop hurting her." It was Mateus. He stood in the doorway, clutching a tablet to his chest. His eyes, wide and serious, fixed on his mother. "I heard you last night, Mommy. I recorded everything." Camilla froze. What are you talking about?" "You said Elena wouldn't last long. You said she'd have an accident." His small fingers fumbled as he unlocked the device. "I have it here. Do you want me to play for Papai?" Raphael's eyes widened. "Mateus, is that true?" The boy nodded gravely. "I didn't understand all of it, but I knew Mommy was planning something bad." The color drained from Camilla's face. "You don't know what you're saying, Filio. You misunderstood." "No," Mateus said firmly. "I know what I heard." He stepped closer to Raphael, slipping the tablet into his father's hands. "She wanted to hurt Tia, Elena." Raphael's jaw tightened as he played the recording. Camilla's voice filled the room. "Don't worry. After tonight, she'll have an accident." No one will ever suspect it wasn't real. The doctor and nurses who had lingered at the doorway exchanged horrified glances. Raphael turned to his wife, his voice low and venomous. You were going to kill her. The woman who risked her life to save her child. How could you? Camila's mask cracked. For the first time, she looked small, desperate. You don't understand, Raphael. She's dangerous. She's ruining everything. Our reputation, our marriage. Our marriage died a long time ago. Raphael cut in coldly. And reputation? Elena has more honor in her little finger than you've had in your entire life. Camila's lips trembled, but before she could reply, security entered. Raphael handed them a tablet. Escort her out. I'll deal with this legally. No, Camila screamed, thrashing as the guards took her by the arms. You can't do this to me. I'm your wife. I'm his mother. Mateus flinched, hiding behind Raphael. You're not acting like a mother, Raphael said quietly, shielding his son. And after tonight, the world will know who you truly are. As Camila was dragged from the room, her screams echoed down the hospital hallways. For Elena, still unconscious, it was the first step toward freedom. But for Camila, stripped of power and dignity, it was only the beginning of her thirst for revenge. Morning sunlight streamed through the hospital window. For the first time in days, Elena's eyes fluttered open. Her head ached. Her body felt weak, but she was alive. Slowly, she turned her head and froze. Raphael sat beside her bed, his hand gently wrapped around hers. His eyes were tired but filled with relief. And on the couch, Mateus slept curled up, still clutching the tablet that had exposed his mother. You're awake, Raphael whispered, his voice breaking. Thank God. Elena tried to sit up, but he stopped her gently. Don't move too fast. You've been through enough. Her lips trembled. Mateus, is he safe? Raphael nodded. Safe because of you. He wouldn't be here if you hadn't jumped. Tears blurred Elena's vision. I only did what anyone would do. No, Raphael said firmly, leaning closer. Not anyone. 200 people stood frozen while my son drowned. Only you moved. You saved him. You saved me. Their eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, the world outside the hospital walls didn't exist. But before either could speak further, Mateus stirred. He rubbed his eyes and patted over, crawling onto the bed. Tia Elena, he whispered, hugging her tightly. Please don't ever leave us again. Her arms wrapped around him instinctively, her heart aching with emotion. I promise, Maywamore. I'm not going anywhere. In that moment, the cameras outside the hospital flashed through the glass. Reporters shouted Elena's name, eager for a glimpse of the maid who had become a hero. Hashtags trended across the country, praising her bravery and condemning the cowardice of the elite. Inside, Raphael spoke softly, almost as if confessing a secret. Elena, when you're strong again, I want to talk about us. About a future. About being a real family. Her heart skipped. She opened her mouth to reply, then stopped. The memory of Camila's furious eyes, her desperate screams, and the venom in her voice chilled her blood. She's not finished, Raphael, Elena whispered, her tone grave. Camila won't disappear quietly. She'll come back. Raphael tightened his grip on her hand, his jaw set with determination. Then let her. Whatever she brings, we'll face it together. Elena glanced at Mateus, whose head now rested peacefully against her chest. She kissed his hair softly, her heart swelling with love and fear all at once. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. The whole world was watching. And while her courage had saved a child, it had also awakened a dangerous enemy. Some stories end with happily ever after. This one was only just beginning.